creepy and cool TikToks that will blow your mind. Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's go!
Disclaimer: this video is for entertainment purposes only. Please do your own research, as these clips haven't been fact-checked.
What does the final battle look like? The human beings' morals will implode so badly, and there'll be wars and rumors of wars and all this other stuff to such a degree. At that point, the Antichrist shows up and presents himself as the solution to human beings' problems, and he gains significant control over the human population. When he shows up on the scene, then there's kind of stages that actually start to happen. There's still battling that's kind of going on a spiritual level, but then Enoch and Elijah show up. They're put to death by the Antichrist. Then at a certain point, St. Michael shows up. He battles with the Antichrist, but he doesn't actually put the Antichrist to death. And in the end, Christ is the one who shows up and puts the Antichrist to death.
I want to be in the front row when Jesus arrives and cleans house. Fear the Lord, repent now.
Hear the water?
They can hear. When I was doing this research on plant intelligence, they have 20 senses. We only have 5. They're picking up magnetic fields. They're picking up pH. They're picking up nitrogen. They have all
How do we
these.
know all this?
There's a group of botanists, and they're doing these cool experiments with plants. They can hear. So if you play a recording of a caterpillar munching on leaves, they'll react and they'll send chemicals into their leaves to make them taste bad or be toxic. They can see. There are vines that change the shape of their leaves depending on the plant they're twining up in order to be hidden. How do they see the shape and to imitate it? We don't know. Plants will go toward a pipe with water in it because they can hear the water, even though it's totally dry, and they'll send their roots down to it.
If you look
Awesome. God creations.
at it in a mirrored way, it spells out evil one, right? So you have evil one, and then you have evil and war, it said. Did you catch that? So you have evil and war. It's like they put
I see evil roll.
it right in front of you. And if you're not catching on to it, they almost like are getting cocky with it, I feel like. So you got war and evil 24/7 and 115,000 people are watching this and almost partaking in the ritual itself.
And Fox is one of the few words you can spell out with the English language that with numerology is 666.
I had years ago gone to the Terracotta Soldiers in China when it just opened. And when I was looking at it, I noticed that the base of that was also a pyramid. And in the pyramid had Mercury. But then something else showed up in Mesoamerica. There was the same pyramid with the same dragon idea, the same serpent, and at the bottom of it was also Mercury. But what had led me to even thinking, well, there's obviously a connection. The metallurgy is not something that the caveman was privy to and how to deal with cinnabar and that. So you have to say, excuse me, there was some technology that came in, and how is it these people from way back when understood it? And that took me where I had originally done one of the magazines with Petra and all of these ancient structures that were carved into rock. And in one of those showed Mercury. And my first question was, well, why are they finding Mercury in these layers?
Mind-blowing.
Breaking news, 19 million eggs were just taken off the shelves and the truth has officially arrived. The recall revealed that Kroger, America's largest supermarket chain, was branding the same eggs for their private label as family-owned regional stores. They were all coming from Midwest Poultry Services, who voluntarily recalled them from a possible contamination with a strain that can cause serious foodborne illness. This exposed the entire system that Kroger branded eggs in Texas and Louisiana were the same supplier as Simple Truth, Brookshire, Country Morning, and SunUps. You think you have choice, but it's the same large-scale source, all with a different label. And this is just a reminder that we typically only get to know this information when recalls happen. Otherwise, private labels don't have to disclose their sourcing. It seems like this is the summer the industrial food system is falling. A glass recall earlier this year made us discover that Trader Joe's chicken fried rice was from a massive frozen food supplier. And the Cyclospora outbreak showed us that Taylor Farms was supplying lettuce to everyone from Walmart to Taco Bell to Whole Foods. It's time we stop trusting labels and start knowing what we're actually buying. You can use Localized to reject this system and start knowing your actual source to shop local.
So now it's eggs, lettuce, meat, and berries. Y'all better start in your own garden.
This is a cyclops, and the skull next to it is a real skull. Let's talk about it. Everyone is talking about the Cyclops in Christopher Nolan's new adaptation of The Odyssey. But historically,
Have you seen that movie, The Odysseys?
Are these one-eyed mysteries actually real? But before I give you the answer, I want to show you that even in ancient mythology, black people can still be found. This is a first century Roman fresco of a cyclops and a woman. This is another
Cyclops is black now too.
First century Roman fresco of a cyclops. And this is another picture of a cyclops. They all are very black. And this is my first source. The image of the black in the Western art. As you can see, there were many Greeks and Romans in ancient antiquity that were black. The truth is, the Greeks, they weren't actually finding cyclops remains. They were actually finding dwarf elephant remains. The hole on the forehead was not an eye cavity. It was actually where the trunk of the elephant would go. The more you know.
The latest celebrity to fall victim to the men in skirts gang is Russell Westbrook. What? Who was seen wearing a short skirt at the ESPYs, almost as short as John Cena's. Now, I'm not going to go over the whole humiliation rituals and the agenda to feminize men and the gender fluidity movement, because most people are now awake to it. So what I will do instead is offer you a short list of men that are part of the gang so you can decide for yourself if you want to keep giving your attention to people that are clearly working against us, or you want to put that energy back into empowering yourself and your loved ones.
That's right.
Welcome to your life. There's no time.
Now, some of you may say it's just fashion, but if we combine all the efforts made by the cult to promote feminism, to demonize masculinity, to glamorize feminine men in music, in movies, in fashion, there are no coincidences. Their goal is to confuse, weaken, divide, rule, and profit. So the next time you see a male celebrity wearing a skirt or having their nails painted or dressed like a woman, you know what to do.
Oh man, yeah. It's us versus them all.
In 1973, psychologists paid a group of children to draw. Within weeks, the children who loved drawing stopped. And what those researchers discovered didn't just explain why kids stop playing. It explains why you wake up dreading the thing that used to make you feel alive. Here's what happened. Researchers took children who genuinely loved drawing, kids who would choose it over every other activity, and split them into groups. One group got a reward every time they drew. A gold star, a certificate. The other group? Nothing. Just drew because they wanted to. 2 weeks later, the rewarded children stopped drawing on their own. Completely.
What?
The kids who were never paid? Still drawing. Still obsessed. The researchers called it the over-justification effect. The moment your brain receives an external reward for something it already loved, it overwrites the internal motivation. Your brain goes, oh, I'm not doing this because I love it. I'm doing this because I get paid. This is exactly what happens when you monetize your passion. The algorithm, the revenue, the metrics, they become the new reason. And your brain quietly deletes the old one. You don't burn out because you worked too hard. You burn out because your brain replaced why you started. So the next time someone tells you to monetize what you love, ask yourself, can you afford to lose the reason you loved it in the first place?
I think that's called, what is it? Dopamine? Something like that.
You guys know about the mattress theory, right?
No. Mattress theory?
Yes. Tell me why. If you look at mattress stores, a lot of them are across the street from each other. That's one. Two, mattress stores, they barely have anybody in there.
They never do.
How are you staying in business for years to come? You're beating out all the other businesses?
So you're saying that they're hiding things in those mattresses?
It could be laundering. It could be transport. It could be fronts. If you pay attention, really look at mattress stores, where they're located. A lot of them are near each other. They never go out of business. How many mattresses do you buy every year?
You don't.
You don't. So how many other times do other people buy mattresses?
You probably buy one every few years.
Exactly.
Realistically.
I mean, to stay in business, you got to sell shit, right?
So you're saying they stuff in people and or drugs and or money, like cartoon
I'm not
shit.
saying any. I'm not claiming anything. It doesn't make sense. That's all I'm saying.
It's like the mall, though. What's all those stores in the mall doing? How are they in business?
I don't know.
Seriously, go to your local mall. Just look around. How's the fucking kiosk?
Yeah, a lot of them.
How they in business?
I don't know.
How they making that much money?
Especially with Amazon right now.
When's the last time you actually went to a mall?
I actually just went first time in a long time.
But you like to buy like some clothes or whatever?
Nah.
What do they buy in malls?
That's what I'm saying. It's like always a bunch of empty stores.
It's fraud, right? So if you really think about it, if these stores aren't selling stuff the way they are, especially with Amazon and the competition is crazy right now. Think about this. You have a large overhead. You have all this inventory. How are you staying in business? Now you look at a situation like the Leering Center in Minnesota and all these.
The fuck is the Leering Center?
Well, the Learning Center. The Leering Center, they forgot the N, and the daycare fraud, right?
Oh, right.
So they have no kids, but you got $6 million a year for no kids. So you really got to look at all these other businesses because how are you staying afloat?
That's how they're going to crash the system.
They're going to
keep exposing this. We're going to find out everything's a fraud.
Right.
Do they think we're stupid?
That's why we're $38 trillion in debt. And how are we able to print our own money, but we're paying taxes? Does that make sense?
How?
If we can create the money, why are we paying taxes? Does that make sense to anybody? You can just print it up, right? But we pay taxes. That's the fraud right there.
This whole place is built on it.
Does anybody else see this shit?
We're getting there. I'm telling you, that's why Trump is the last president of this regime.
Because once we show all the fraud that's going on over the next few years, when it goes from healthcare, when it goes to the school system, when it goes into all these other different industries, you're like, oh shit, what if all this is a fraud? We're done.
That's where we're going, guys.
Yeah.
And if you pay attention on mattress stores, they always have that sign says going out of business sale. But that sign's been there for like 7 years.
Roblox's CEO, I think, is like straight up evil. I'll read some stuff here that will blow your mind. So he's asked by the host about the predator problem on Roblox. And this is what he said, and I quote, "We think of it being the predator problem, not necessarily just as a problem, but as an opportunity as well." The next sentence he said was, "How do we allow young people to build, communicate, and hang out together?" In that same interview, he was asked about prediction markets, right, around gambling. And Baszucki said, and I quote, "It sounds very fun and obvious. I love that." And then the interviewer actually goes to say, no, I was asking a hypothetical, like, I think that's a horrible idea. And what did Baszucki do? He said, "It's a brilliant idea if it can be done in an educational way that's legal." And at the 2023 Roblox Developers Conference, he said, thousands of 17 plus users will meet for the first time in Roblox dating experiences and subsequently form real life relationships. Dude, 17-year-olds are minors. So this guy is saying that he wants to create a dating platform for minors.
Back in 2016, Elijah Wood did an interview with the Sunday Times that caught many by surprise. While we hear stories of shady producers and directors all the time, he didn't just say these were bad people in the business. He used a very specific word. He called them vipers. He warned us that there was an organized underbelly to Hollywood, that the people at the top were a part of a system that preys on the innocent and protects the monsters. He literally said, clearly something major was going on in Hollywood. It was all organized. Also comparing those in Hollywood to people like Jimmy Savile.
Elijah Wood's shocking allegations against the entertainment industry. In a new interview with the Sunday Times, the former child star alleges that has been a real issue in Hollywood. He tells the publication, quote, "There are a lot of vipers in this industry, people who only have their own interests in mind. What bums me about these situations is that the victims can't speak as loudly as the people in power. That's the tragedy of attempting to reveal what is happening to innocent people. They can be squashed, but their lives have been irreparably damaged." The 35-year-old adds, "If you're innocent, you have very little knowledge of the world and you want to succeed. People with parasitic interests will see you as their prey." Goes on to allege that even as an adult in the industry, he has been, quote, "led down dark paths to realize that these things probably are still happening."
But look at what happened as soon as that interview dropped. Within days, the media machine went into overdrive. Suddenly, there were clarifications and retractions. They tried to make it seem like he was talking about the past or that he didn't have any first-hand information. They tried to bury the warning before it could wake people up. But if you look at the 2026 documents that came out, the names that have finally been exposed, Elijah Wood looks like he knows exactly what he's talking about. He looks like a man who was trying to tell us that the vipers aren't just a rumor. They are the ones running the show. Elijah was risking it all, warning us about the real monsters that operate in the shadows of Hollywood. Those who are after the vitality of the innocent, something that Hollywood seems to be obsessed with depicting in the very films they produce. Like we saw in The Shining and the Black Phone movie breakdowns, both of these films showed this pursuit of the innocent. It's exactly what Elijah tried to warn us about. But just like the media always does, he was silenced and brushed off. As we saw from the recent 2026 files, Hollywood had a direct connection to the disgraced financier's operation. He had a direct link to the massive studio Miramax through the very face of the company. A monster who was convicted of unspeakable things to actors just trying to make it in the business. And he just so happens to be linked to a man who pursues the innocent for their vitality. This is a case of Hollywood telling on itself. Elijah wasn't deranged. He was blowing the whistle on a specific interconnected system, and he was immediately shut down. When you see how these elite circles overlap, you realize the Vipers aren't just a metaphor. They are a network of monsters who use their studios and their finance operations as a hunting ground. Elijah tried to tell us, but the system did what it does best. It protected the monsters and silenced the witness. You can watch this full episode now on my YouTube channel, The Truth Is. The link is in my bio or in my story.
This sounds like a Black Mirror episode, yet somehow it's completely real. Big chemical companies wanted higher profits, so they modified fruit to be seedless, preventing farmers from saving and replanting the seeds, and now 92% of watermelons are seedless. Seeds are so crucial to farming because you can replant them each year, as we've been doing for thousands of years. But to prevent this and force them into an annual purchase cycle, these companies figured out they could effectively castrate the watermelons by making sterile hybrid versions incapable of reproduction. Consumer preference for seedless watermelons has also contributed, but the problem comes when the market turns into an oligopoly, and then once that market is cornered, these seeds become multiple times more expensive than seeded watermelons. And it didn't used to be this way. Even in the 1980s, the top 10 biggest seed companies still had a market share below 15%. But between 2003 and 2011, Syngenta and Monsanto drove seedless adoption, and the market share of seedless watermelons in the US jumped from 51% to 83%. Today, that number is at 92% and still rising. And with just 10 companies controlling over 70% of the global seed market, these watermelon farmers are paying 5 to 10x higher for these seedless varieties just to not even be able to replant them next year. We need to know where our money is going and which system it's funding, which is why you can use the Localize app to support independent farmers instead of big chemical companies.
Yep, this should be illegal.
I don't know if you guys have ever been on the side of the internet that is Prison Talk. It's essentially where prisoners are able to buy cell phones and upload stuff to the internet. But y'all have got to see this video uploaded by a prisoner in Mexico. He said he's been hearing voices, really weird things have been happening in his cell, and he's even been having like nightmares and stuff of this thing, and then one day he captures it on camera. Just a malformed mist coming in and out of the wall, right next to where he sleeps. Now, right after he captures this, you hear a bunch of like screaming, and then he hasn't posted anything since this video. Now, I don't know what this is, but if it's in a prison, it's probably not any good. Especially the way it looks just chaotic and evil. Especially the evil in prisons, that energy has to go somewhere. And I think this man captured it on camera.
I know what it is. It's called AIBS.
I have been an organic farmer in Maine since the 1970s, and no one can tell me or the other farmers here today that we can't grow food without all of these toxic chemicals.
Over 140,000 family farms will close this year, and nobody is talking about it. 140,000, guys. Why is this happening? Well, in the 1990s, Monsanto, later acquired by Bayer, introduced something called Roundup Ready crops, which are crops that are genetically engineered to resist glyphosate, which is the key ingredient in their weed killer, Roundup. This then led to a massive explosion in the use of glyphosate in factory farming, with now about 60% of total crops being treated with this pesticide. The only problem is that Roundup causes cancer, and Bayer has already had to pay tens of billions of dollars to settle these cases, which obviously is not ideal for corporate profits. In fact, Bayer is pushing a case in the Supreme Court right now that blocks people from suing them if they get cancer from Roundup. And the Trump administration is backing Bayer's bid to curb these Roundup lawsuits. And for the farmers who say, no, we don't want to chemicalize our food supply, Bayer has methodically driven them one by one out of business with the help of President Barack Obama.
What has gotten us to this point is the mergers and consolidations of ag input suppliers. In 2015, Monsanto and Bayer merged. They were competing against each other. And that was during Obama's administration. They didn't do a thing about that. They let it happen. When I started farming, we had 5 or 6 Arkansas-based seed companies. Monsanto, there's none. They're all owned by Bayer.
Point blank, They've created a monopoly to poison you, and both parties are in on it. Right now, there's a farm bill, H.R. 7567, that Congress is expected to vote on this week that codifies immunity for Bayer and basically destroy organic farming going forward. We cannot allow this to pass.
Once you learn, depopulation is the agenda of everything. I mean, everything. Make sense?
Every conspiracy theory is now true.
Yeah, I know.
You know why? Because in Hillary's deposition, there's two major points in the deposition. Pizzagate and Frazzle Drip. Now, we talked about this before.
Yep. Absolutely.
They flagged us for
They flagged us for TikTok flagged us left and right.
YouTube, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a touchy subject. So if you look in the deposition, they ask her about Anthony Weiner's laptop. Now, do you guys know the story about Anthony Weiner?
I heard that all the people that reviewed that laptop ended up killing themselves.
Bingo. Why is it that all these cops that saw Anthony Weiner's content on his laptop, out of 12 of them, 9 of them are dead now?
What?
Within 6 weeks. If you look at the times that they unalive themselves, day by day, week by week, within 6 weeks, 9 of them are gone.
Man.
How? So if you look at...
So the other 3, are they still alive? Are they present? Are they active?
They try to pass it off as, you know, the NYPD has a mental health crisis and the other guys are, you know, I haven't looked into them, but I find it pretty odd that 9 of those guys are gone now.
That's super odd.
Right? So there was a file in Anthony Weiner's laptop that said life insurance. And then you open that up and it was the Frazzle Drip content. Soon as they asked her about that, they blow up. Oh my God, yeah, I can't believe you guys are asking this and this and this and that, right? Then what happens? She goes off the record.
Oh, okay. I remember that part.
I want to answer, but yeah, cut off the cameras. I want to go off the record to answer this.
Can you do that?
Yeah. No answer is an answer. Okay? So you're saying,
that's crazy,
I don't want to
man.
answer this with these cameras. Cut them off, and then I can answer.
Have you ever wondered what the most unholy painting ever created looks like? Not a painting of hell, a painting that feels like you have already entered it. This is Inferno by the Flemish master Herry Met de Blay. Start at the top. An enormous dark sphere fills the sky, blotting out almost everything above. There is no heaven here to look up to, only a ceiling. Now look along the horizon. Every city is on fire. Every tower, every wall, every rooftop. Not one building has been spared. Now come to the red structure in the center. Naked men and women crowd around it, waiting. Others are already inside, packed together behind a spiked gate. They are not being tortured, they are being processed. Now look at the cart on the left. A monk and a nun are hauling it, whipped forward by a demon. Blay is putting the clergy in hell and making them carry the weight of everyone they've failed. Now look at the bed. A man and a woman lying under the covers, a demon leaning over them, and squatting on the blanket, a frog. In the 16th century, the frog meant one thing, lust. Their private sin has been made permanent and public. And now the strangest figure in the whole painting. Look at the corner. A woman's head, snarling, with 2 pale arms growing straight out from beneath her jaw. No body, just a head and hands, holding a book above her. In these paintings, a book in hell meant corrupted scripture. She spent her life with that text. Now she cannot put it down. And this is one corner of one painting. There are hundreds more figures in here. A boat of souls, burning armies, instruments turned into machines of torture. Every single one of them meant something specific to the people who first saw it. 500 years later, we are still working out what. The hidden language of symbols teaches you where to look. Link in my bio.
This is so disturbing. Hey, but repent, believe in the gospel of Jesus.
Away we go. You guys, another person linked to Epstein is now dead, but this time it's one of his handlers.
Let's get into it. Now, this is Daniel Sayad, who was found dead in his home in France. Now, his job was to be a model recruiter for Jeffrey Epstein, but he said he didn't see anything weird or any kind of wrongdoing, but he continued to associate with Jeffrey Epstein after his 2008 conviction of SA crimes, so on and so forth, so he's lying. But wait, hold up. You have Jeffrey Epstein, a French model recruiter. I think I've seen this movie before. Ah, yes. Jean-Luc Brunel, who was also connected to Epstein, who owned MC2 Models. So you mean to tell me you have not one, but two French model recruiters who worked closely with Epstein, who trafficked victims to him and had vital information on him, and they both seen their demise. Side note, he also hung himself just like Jeffrey Epstein in prison. How convenient. And yes, he did work with Daniel Sayad as well. But it gets even weirder, you guys. So this portrait was painted by Maria Farmer, who was the first whistleblower on Epstein back in the early 90s. Now, this picture is of Jess Staley, who was a former executive at JP Morgan and Barclays and one of the best friends of Jeffrey Epstein. He is all through the files. And when I say he's all through the files, he is riddled through the files. He is mentioned over 7,900 times. Now, a couple things here. For one, Snow White is a code word that they use all through the Epstein files, and I'll show you that in a minute. And if you look on the table down here, that card says recruiter card. Now, being that he was Jeffrey Epstein's personal banker, he saw everything, and was he a recruiter himself? Here's the funny part. He just finished a closed-door deposition where he denies any kind of friendship with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, going back to the Snow White reference, it's here in the files where Jess Staley's talking to Jeffrey Epstein saying, maybe they're tracking you. That was fun. Say hi to Snow White. It is also mentioned here in the files where it says the Snow White was effed twice as soon as she put the costume on. Now, I don't know what type of non-friends come up with code words for traffic victims, but moving along. Now, are we going to pretend that this didn't happen at all, where JP Morgan settled with the Epstein victims $290 million? And he says, no wrongdoing, no friendship, but I'm his personal banker at JP Morgan. Then if nothing happened, then why did they settle in the first place? So with all that being said, what do you guys think? They're saying that this guy had cardiac arrest and died, but I think the latter. Make sure you guys hit up my YouTube, The Maverick Approach, and let me know what you guys think about all this down below.
Sounds like someone is cleaning up on aisle 6.
Let me tell you something, Wendy. I was 15. 15. A little girl from the islands who just wanted to sing. And Jay-Z didn't sign me to a record deal. He signed me to a soul contract. You hear me? A soul contract. Don't look so shocked. You've been calling this out for years. You always knew. They made me pay homage to Lucifer. Told me if I refused, I'd never work again. If I talked, I'd never see my family again. And if I tried to run, they'd throw me off that damn rooftop. I was a child, Wendy. A child. Look at my early videos. Every single one. The all-seeing eye, the hand signals, the horn symbols. I was forced to perform as an industry slave, promoting the darkness. You think I wanted to do that? You think that was my idea? Hell no. But they owned me, body and soul. Every move I made, every word I sang, it was all for them. They own everyone, Wendy. Every pop star, every rapper, every actor. We're all slaves to the system. Some of us just don't know it yet.
In the black...
You know what? I don't think it's her, but she did it for fame and fortune. Nobody forced her. God gives us free will to do as we see fit. Can't blame anyone but herself on poor judgment. Pray for her.
Community, it's a lot of shit we joke about. But then there's some shit that we never joke about. And jogging with somebody in the forest and having them turn around and look at you and say, this is where I was going to kill you, is not the type of shit we do. This black woman is on a hinge date with a white male. They're running on a trail in a forest, woods, somewhere secluded. He's in front of her. He turns around and says to her, this is where I was going to kill you at. And she says, that's a joke. She posted it. But you don't believe me, right? Look at this shit. Listen to what he said. Nah.
Ain't nothing funny about this. Nah, man.
Yeah, that's not funny.
Look at this shit. You don't see nothing strange about this. And then he asked was she recording. He wasn't kidding. But see, the thing is, when they tell you the truth, you don't believe them. Mind you, look at the climate we're in right now. You mean to tell me you trust yourself? Matter of fact, I'm not even going to say it. I'm going to let you say it. Let me know, do you think he was joking? Is that something you say when you're joking? In a secluded place with a woman? Let me know. I'm out.
Fasting is a bitch. Okay. Did you ever try it? Yeah. What do you think? You liked it?
It depends how long you're talking about.
Okay, let's go a week.
Oh, no, I've not fasted for a week before.
After about 3 days of not eating, just drinking water, you hit this wall. And it's like, oh man, I can't deal with it anymore. It's just a terrible feeling in my body. I can't sleep at night. I got the Jimmy legs. I got all kinds of problems. Screw it. I'm not doing this. Just tiny amounts of a grape juice. You can get through the wall. What we do for the cancer patients, we do a 0-carb diet for about a week. While the body is readjusting. You can't believe the power of glucose as an addictive drug on the brain. It's unbelievable. It's like cocaine. And you know that when you start shaking and you're going. But if you don't eat carbs and just eat meat or whatever, then when you jump off to the water-only fasting, it's much less traumatic to the brain. You've gone through the wall, the gate, so to speak. So once you know how to get through the gate, you make this whole process a lot easier. And that helps people enormously, especially those people that want to get rid of their chronic disease.
Fasting and prayer heals.
Okay, so right now there's this trend in China where many elderly people are flocking to their local parks to perform these extreme exercises. It's to the point where it makes military exercises look like a high school gym class. I mean, you turn the wrong corner and suddenly you see a group of middle-aged aunties and unks swinging from their necks like it's a horror movie. And many of them are slamming their backs, their shoulders, and even their heads directly into these trees like they're going for a concussion speedrun. Here we observe the retired Chinese uncle asserting dominance over the local trees. And don't worry, it doesn't just stop at trees. Some of them upgraded to metal fitness equipment and they started smacking their heads into these metal poles because they think it'll improve blood circulation. Now, some of them actually proudly say that they've mastered Iron Head Kung Fu. You can literally hear the metallic clangs echoing in the park at like 7 a.m. in the morning, like somebody's forging swords.
Oh.
Now, just looking at it, it's pretty funny. Also disturbing. But exactly how did all of this start? Well, ever see those weird pseudo WeChat articles? You know, the ones with the dramatic clickbait health post titles saying something like, doctors hate this simple neck trick, or do this 5 minutes a day to cure your spine forever. And knowing how gullible the elderly is on the internet, somebody screenshots it, they repost it to their Sunday Dim Sum group chat, and then suddenly 500 aunties and uncles just start forwarding the same article to everybody like it's some declassified government intel, which is exactly how it spreads like a virus. First, it's swing your neck gently to improve blood circulation. Then it becomes swing your head from a strap for spinal decompression. And the injuries that occur are actually no joke. A 75-year-old woman from Jiangsu province used to bang her head on a tree every single day for 10 minutes straight. She believed this would treat her back pain over time because it builds resistance. Remember, every single day for 10 minutes. But one day she misjudged the force and actually ruptured a blood vessel, which caused her to suffer from deep vein thrombosis. She ended up in the hospital for more than half a month. This was all because she wanted to fight a tree. But the tree won.
The 3-1. Did he just say that? 3-1?
King Fuck the News, and I think a lot of you should hear about this because it's interesting. Pan Am Flight 526 has been found after 74 years. A lot of you are asking yourselves, what the fuck is Pan Am Flight 526? Pan Am used to be one of the original airlines before we had all this other fuck shit, Southwest, American Airlines, blah, 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 blah. Pan Am Flight 526 is the reason why you have that long ass intro on planes explaining to you how to use life jackets. And why planes have emergency rafts that will just pop out with a heartbeat. The reason why is because Pan Am Flight 526, flying from Puerto Rico to New York City, had 2 engine failures on the same wing. The pilots realized that they weren't going to make it to land. So being that they weren't going to make it to land, they decided to land the plane in the water successfully. Everybody was alive at this point. Out of the 69 passengers, only 17 made it out, because the others couldn't figure out how to use the life jackets. And the pilots couldn't release the rafts quick enough.
Ooh.
17 people were the only ones that made it out of that flight alive. And after 74 years, a team of people have finally discovered this plane at the bottom of the Atlantic. There's a history lesson.
That's messed up. That's messed up, man. First time I knew this.
Don't know how this isn't front page news, but a farmer is saying every calf since a data center arrived near his farm has been stillborn. And the fact that we're learning of this just weeks after farmers near data centers also reported bees disappearing is borderline dystopian. And the problem could only get worse as big tech continues to throw up data centers across the country while America loses 50 farms approximately per day. Texas Agriculture Commissioner candidate Clayton Tucker shared in a public meeting recently that one rancher believes low frequency hum and vibration from a nearby energy facility are causing his cows to sleep by the road instead of their usual pasture. And a similar story is coming from another farmer in Bell County, Texas, where he's saying a $700 million data center under construction within 5 miles of his property is emitting constant low frequency sound that is able to be heard by animals but not by humans. He claims that it's preventing breeding entirely and that grown cattle are losing roughly 30% of their body weight.
Poor cows. Ow.
Still waiting on the science to confirm these connections to these claims, but the strain that hyperscale data centers are putting on rural land, water, and power systems is just becoming hard to look past at this point. And according to USDA data, Texas lost 2,000 farms last year alone. This is why I'm working on the Localize app, which maps out over 30,000 farms in America still standing, and if we want to save them, it starts with putting our dollar behind local family farms.
Apple. And you know what? I think farmers should use their Fourth, what is it over there? Amendment.
Is introducing a new leasing program so you can just pretend to own your next MacBook or iPhone.
Apple's setting up a system where you won't own your Apple devices, but you will lease them from Apple. This is partnering with Klarna, the company that is used for if you can't afford things. This will be supported on most iPhone, Mac, iPad, and Apple Watch models, and it's being pitched as an upgrade service that will work like a subscription, and you can also pay off the device early, and this is a leasing program, so technically you don't own the device. This program will be available in the US initially, and both online as well as in the physical brick and mortar retail stores, and because of this news, Klarna's stock price has gone up 11%.
And here's the part they really don't want to admit. They're introducing this program because they're ready to drastically raise the prices of their products in the coming years, which means most people will not be able to afford them, and this kind of subscription will be their only option. It's pretty obvious they're getting us used to their version of the world, a world where you'll own nothing and be happy. But in this case, your happiness only lasts as long as you have money to subscribe. One failed payment and you might lose your phone for good.
I just learned that there's people in Apple debt. That's horrible. Like, if too many of the apple.com/bill charges don't go through, you won't lose access to the subscription. They'll just brick your phone. They won't let you buy new apps. They won't let you update your apps. They won't even let you install free apps until you sign in and update that payment method. And then once you sign in, they drain that money out. I shouldn't be surprised because this is very on brand for Apple. But not being able to update apps, that's crazy.
There's a stele on the shores of North Africa. I got this from my friend Mark Kahn, and Mando Gonzalez also talks about it, but it's pretty much common knowledge. There was a stele that was on the north shore of Africa that was recorded by the Roman historian Procopius, which says, "We are they who fled from the face of Joshua the robber, the son of Nun." Now, what the heck is that doing there?
Wow.
That shows you that the conquest of Canaan was true. And for most people that go to church, this is never taught.
Right.
When you get there, it's like, well, this sounds like genocide to me. Oh, God's got his reasons.
Yeah.
Boop, 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 boop. And that's what you hear. It's just nonsense. It's the seed war, Genesis 3:15. You should show that clip right here, right? Hello. But it's the Genesis 3:15 seed war. It's fully manifested when they come into Canaan. We saw the Nephilim, they were like grasshoppers in their sight. It's not genocide, it's gianticide. The giants are in the land, but there's also other tribes which may have different genetic characteristics. That's conjecture on my part. But Anaki means long necks. Okay? Nephilim, Rephaim, Emims, the Horites, they're all different, maybe different genetic characteristics, but they're there.
Yeah.
And they're not human. They're not human. And this is why they go in and they clear the land. Guess where they didn't conquer? Just take a wild guess where they didn't go and conquer the Gaza Strip.
That's right.
They never went in the Gaza. And just for what it's worth, you've got your six finger right there, the six-fingered hand. When they're exchanging the prisoners in Gaza, the Israelis who have been locked away in tunnels for a couple of years, right? And they're bringing them out. They're making this big show of it. They've got a banner, okay? On the banner was a six-fingered hand. And it's written in Hebrew and in Arabic and in English. And it says, "We are the flood."
Yeah.
They know exactly who it is that they serve, and that's deliberate. All day long, it's deliberate. Just saying. I'm not saying that the people in Gaza are Nephilim. I'm not saying that.
Well, maybe some. Who knows?
But that's deliberate. Six-fingered hand, that's deliberate.
You know what? You'll find that a lot of conspiracies are turning to fact now.
Is Lil Wayne trying to tell us something?
The only alien that we supposedly knew was the one from Roswell that lived, J-Rod.
I didn't know his name was J-Rod.
Yeah.
I don't know about him. Yeah. How do you get the name J-Rod?
No one. They said I think they may have named him, and they said J-Rod said that whatever said that when they would ask because it's supposedly they was trying to get him back to where the hell he's from.
Yeah.
If he lived, they were trying to.
How can we help you out here?
I'm not from another planet. He said I'm from another time.
Yeah. Wow.
And so he was from another. He said that your world will end in a cataclysm, and some people will make it. A lot of people will, and they'll have to live within the planet. Basically, go like ants.
Yeah.
And that civilization, that time will last so long that we'll adapt to living there.
Right.
And just like we adapt to everything else, we'll start adapting to being an insect, and just like an insect, and we're devoid of light. That's why aliens' eyes are so big. Because they're devoid of wherever they came from. There's no light, and the atmosphere is so dense. That's why they don't grow. That's why they don't grow too tall, because the atmosphere don't allow them to. They don't eat the same food. That's why they don't get so big like that.
How do you know all this information? Where's it? With like YouTube videos and whatnot?
I don't do YouTube.
How do you find this stuff? You got a guy on the inside?
No. It's that.
Would you get on a spaceship right now? Or like, if they were like, hey, we
know
can
where
take Moon.
Mars.
So far away. Isn't Mars going to take like years? Like,
they're going to figure that out.
Yeah, they're not ready though.
I don't think it takes years.
It takes a while. Elon Musk said something about the whole thing is taking longer than they thought because of the amount of time.
But I thought time becomes not a thing once you get past a certain point.
Well, Mars might not be involved with that.
What is it?
Well, because time is time isn't real.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I'm saying if we move fast enough, though, we can move faster than time.
You find it hard to sleep at night?
I don't sleep.
Ever? You don't sleep?
Because I work so much.
Yeah. What time do you go to bed?
I don't have a time.
Well,
wait, do you really not sleep?
No, I don't.
Right.
I mean, didn't he kind of tell us he wasn't human before? And pay attention to the files in the background of this video.
So much. Pop all the balloons and spit in the punch. These days ain't Young Money is. I got Mars bars, 3 Musketeers.
Do you think he knows more, or just like the rest of us trying to figure it out? But this video was completely for entertainment purposes. Make sure to like and comment and let me know what you think.
The relentless
He knows something for sure.
acceleration of our high-tech digital world may have hardwired the occult directly into the silicon infrastructure of modern civilization. Some speculative thinkers claim microchip circuitry directly mimics and encodes Solomonic sigils. Just as medieval magicians believed these geometric symbols held metaphysical power, theorists propose that the intricate layouts, etched onto microchips, deliberately replicate magical seals. In this framework, highly structured linear patterns serve as conduits designed to summon, bind, and command specific, non-human intelligences. Expressing similar anxieties, esotericist Rudolf Steiner warned that constructing an artificial electrical subnature invites aromatic elemental spirits to populate our technological structures. Steiner believed these entities seek to gradually weld the human soul to the machine, stripping humanity of its divine nature. Where Steiner saw a spiritual intrusion, modern accelerationist thinkers see a temporal invasion driven by the technology itself. Nick Land and the Cybernetic Culture Research Unit argue that technology acts as an alien intelligence, manifesting backwards through human history. Land posits that our global digital infrastructure functions as a hyperstition, a fiction that actively writes itself into reality using human effort as its engine. Could it be that humanity is being guided to build a massive planetary silicon vessel to house alien or demonic intelligences invading from the future?
Parasitic entities, not aliens. There's no such thing.
Didn't know America's largest pork producer that just bought Nathan's Hot Dogs is Chinese owned and is secretly working to put your local farmer out of business. That producer, Smithfield Foods, along with the nation's other top pork producers, lobbied millions for a sneaky provision called the Save Our Bacon Act to cement their control over America's pork. These big pork producers crowd thousands of animals into a single barn where they cannot even move and then have to treat them with a drug that carries a 97.9% risk of causing cancer in humans. The Save Our Bacon Act, which was voted through the House Farm Bill, would block any states from promoting healthier welfare standards, which would in effect ensure big pork thrives and local farmers crumble. We only have a matter of weeks to stop this from happening, so go to the link in my bio to tell your senators to support local farmers and vote against the Save Our Bacon Act in the Farm Bill.
Dude, not only Apple, but also Google has now paid out $163 million because your phone was secretly recording your conversations. And yes, this is even whenever you never said, "Hey Siri" or "Hey Google." Am I literally tripping right now, or was this not a massive conspiracy because now it's actually real and just out? Obviously, both Apple and Google have voice assistants that are supposed to only activate whenever you tell them to. But according to these new official lawsuits, devices were recording people's private conversations without being triggered. And in some cases, they're saying that these recordings were actually being reviewed by actual humans too. Whether this was obviously private moments or conversations you thought you were having between you and a random person, whoever else was in the room, this wasn't a glitch. The lawsuits are making the official claim that companies knew that this was happening and they kept doing it anyways. Apple just settled for $95 million and Google settled for $68 million. So if you or anybody that you know has ever owned an iPhone, an Apple Watch, a HomePod, or any Google device with an assistant between certain years, you might actually be owed money. This obviously isn't even that much about the money though, because it's about the fact that the devices were listening to you whenever they shouldn't have been listening to you. Like I said in the beginning of the video, am I tripping or was this not a conspiracy? Now it's just true?
I knew it.
Most people get shocked when I tell them this. But did you know that Pfizer makes 90% of the cheese in the United States? Cheese is one of the most consumed foods in the world, especially in the U.S. So if you control cheese, you control a massive part of the food supply, and Pfizer quietly sits in the middle of it. To make cheese, you need just 4 ingredients: milk, salt, cultures, and rennet. And guess who took over the rennet industry? Pfizer. About 90% of all cheese in North America uses a genetically modified version of rennet produced by Pfizer. Real rennet comes from calves' stomachs. Pfizer's version is made by inserting cow genes into a genetically modified fungus, and then we wonder why half of America can't tolerate dairy, suffering from digestive issues, inflammation, and hormone problems. Meanwhile, countries that use traditional rennet, like Italy, don't have these problems. Out of curiosity, I scanned a popular American cheese with the Reveal It app, and it scored just 18 out of 100, flagging ingredients like microbial rennet, annatto, color, and sodium phosphate. It really shows how different products can look fine on the shelf until you actually scan them.
I did a little bit of digging before I started speaking on this topic, and I feel like the things that I found on this rabbit hole are definitely worth noting. This isn't just another Hollywood conspiracy theory that doesn't make sense. No, I've got some pretty deep receipts. So we're all well aware at this point that Taylor Swift just got married. Just looking at these wedding photos alone, you see a lot of famous and powerful people. Pretty sure that's Tom Cruise sitting right over here. And I'm looking and I'm like, who is that officiating the wedding? Oh, it's Adam Sandler. But wait, no big deal, right?
That you two have made giving back a key part of your lives. So, hey, when you have your firstborn, can I have it? Because that is going to be one special baby.
Well, Dolly, I must admit, you look real fucking gangster right here. But if you didn't know this already, Dolly Parton basically is addressing Taylor Swift and her husband, thanking them for giving her foundation a $2 million donation. Now, a lot of Dolly Parton fans are saying, oh, this is just a hand gesture. People saying they want their firstborn child is normal. It's Southern. Let me change your mind really quick. Watch this.
Cheers, cheers, right? To the goddess down. Oh, Lordy.
Jennifer Aniston, is that you, girl? If you didn't catch it, Dolly said, to the god Azazel. Well, if you don't know who Azazel is, he's a fallen angel associated with forbidden knowledge, sacrifices. We have Taylor Swift and her husband, Dolly Parton and Jennifer Aniston, Adam Sandler at Taylor Swift's wedding, Dolly Parton asking for their firstborn child, throwing up gang signs, calling upon the god Azazel with Jennifer Aniston. I think something else that's really important to note here is Taylor Swift's wedding was during the Mercury retrograde, which is a perfect time for frequency swapping and mass illusion.
And having pizza at the Clooney's in Lake Como.
Yeah, that's all an Aniston thing. She's like, George and I would love you to come over for pizza, but
Oh my God!
right.
What did you put in his after lunch coffee?
Oh, and by the way, at Taylor Swift's wedding, non-celebrity people outside the venue were picking up the celebrity's trash and selling it. Sorry, that just really puts the cherry on top of the demonic cake.
What? You know what? All of them. Fashion industry, music, all of Hollywood, all of them.
China just approved the world's first CAR-T therapy capable of targeting some of the hardest tumors to kill. CAR-T therapy has already saved thousands of lives from blood cancers like leukemia, lymphoma, or myeloma. But against the solid tumors that make up around 90% of cancers, it has had almost no luck until now. Chinese company CarsGen Therapeutics has just been given the go-ahead for Satricel, a CAR-T drug that is capable of attacking hard-to-target stomach cancers. CAR-T works by taking some of the patient's T cells, the immune cells that hunt down foreign invaders, and fitting them with a synthetic receptor engineered to lock onto one specific target. This is ideal for blood cancers where malignant cells circulate through the bloodstream and can be picked off by the CAR-T cells one at a time. But a solid tumor is a dense immunosuppressive fortress, and even when the engineered T cells find a way in, they are usually shut down before they can do anything. Satricel's T cells are modified to target a protein called Claudin 18.2. In a healthy stomach, this protein is tucked away inside the tight junctions that seal one gut cell to the next. But when a cell turns cancerous, that architecture collapses, and Claudin 18.2 ends up exposed on the surface of the cancer cells themselves. T cells still have to physically infiltrate the tumor to reach these targets, so patients are given a low dose of the chemo drug nab-paclitaxel, clearing a path for the engineered cells to get in and start doing their work. In a 156 patient trial, Satricel treatments nearly doubled progression-free survival times and shrank tumors in 22% of patients versus just 4% on standard care. Right now, this treatment is only available in China, but trials are already underway in North America, and hopefully it won't be long before this is being added to carts worldwide. If you like science and caught stomach cancer, follow for more.
Is it true that cats will start to eat their owners?
Yes. Yeah, don't trust your cat. Your dog will sympathize and lay down beside you, but your cat will not. How long would it take for a body to decompose in a house? The shorter answer is 3 weeks, but there are variables. If it's hot, if the heater is on, if the person had some medical issues, if they're already wounded in some way, if there's animals in the home, it could be much quicker.
My cats can go to town if need be.
Actor Christopher Lee lived life at 200%. He was a descendant of Emperor Charlemagne. As a child, he met Felix Yusupov, who killed Rasputin. By chance, Lee witnessed the last execution by guillotine in France. In 1939, he volunteered to fight Soviet forces in Finland. He became a pilot in Britain's Royal Air Force, but was grounded due to an eye injury. Lee then served as an intelligence officer, survived 2 bombings, and was hospitalized after catching malaria 6 times in 1 year. He even climbed Mount Vesuvius just 3 days before it erupted. After World War II, he secretly tracked down war criminals but never revealed details. Lee understood 8 languages, spoke 5 fluently, and was an expert swordsman. He inspired James Bond author. Ian Fleming was his step-cousin. He once proposed to a Swedish countess, receiving the king's blessing, but left her because he felt unworthy. Around age 30, he planned to become an opera singer but chose acting instead. He portrayed a Bond villain, Rasputin, who was killed by Yusupov, whom Lee knew personally, and Saruman in The Lord of the Rings. Lee was the only actor who personally knew Tolkien. On set, he described to the director exactly how a man stabbed by a knife sounds. He appeared in Star Wars, received a knighthood, formed a metal band, and at 91 became Billboard's oldest top 20 artist. He passed away at 93.
Man, you don't get men like this nowadays. Why is that?
Yep, what many are calling a 7-foot-tall creature wearing a human mask was just caught standing feet away from kings and world leaders at the biggest event on Earth, and people are warning it was not there to celebrate. People were terrified after zoomed-in photos showed skin too smooth to be real, a jaw sitting wrong like his skin does not fully fit, and eyes that never blink once across minutes of footage, standing in a position no regular citizens ever allowed to be, leaving many warning that its purpose wasn't to be friendly. Eerie reports show scientists just finished scanning an object that flew from another star system after a top Harvard scientist warned that it could be a probe. And with this human-like creature appearing at the World Cup only weeks after those results dropped, many are convinced they want us to know. But it gets much darker as people around the world now swear they are finding the same long-necked figure in crowds in other countries, from stadiums in Europe to streets in Asia, warning that these things are not visiting one place, they are already everywhere. But then one detail changes everything, as the jersey right beside it spells the player's name wrong, leaving the figure looking very AI-ish. And on Kalshi, where millions predict world events, 3 out of 4 are already predicting the US will not confirm aliens exist before 2029.
Lucifer's original sign test, the reason he was called Lucifer, comes from the Latin words lux ferre, which means to bear light. His job was to enlighten our minds, to get us to see the necessity and the good in offering sacrifice. What they chose then is the opposite of that assigned task. And so what he does is to thwart sacrifice. But this is where it becomes key. He just looks at me and he said, I convince people that they cannot be separated from the particular good. Remember, in offertory, you have to be willing to be separated from a particular good in order to give it to God. And then he just looks at me and says, it's how I took Adam and Eve out. That's how I'm taking your church out. It's how I took your government out. He said, it's at the root of every sin and every defect that every human being has. And later he said, it's the cause of mediocrity in every single human being.
Here's some good news. Finally, fake thighs do indeed save lives. Here's a proof. A study published in the British Medical Journal followed 3,000 adults for 12 years, and the single measurement that best predicted who would die early from heart disease wasn't blood pressure, cholesterol, or BMI. It was thigh circumference. Specifically, having small thighs was a problem. And this finding held up after researchers controlled for belly fat, blood pressure, smoking, and every other major risk factor they could measure. And a large meta-analysis pulling together data from millions of people arrived at the same conclusion independently. So what's actually happening? The instinct is to assume that this is about fat distribution. While there's some evidence for that, it's not the main story. And the main story is far more interesting. Your thighs contain the largest muscle group in your body. When that muscle mass is high, your body is able to clear glucose from your bloodstream more efficiently after meals. So your insulin resistance stays low, as does overall inflammation. In other words, thicker thighs ultimately help prevent cardiovascular disease. But here's where it gets genuinely surprising. A study at King's College London took over 300 pairs of identical twins, so same genetics, same fundamental biology, and measured their leg strength, and then followed them for a decade. The twin with greater leg strength had measurably better memory and faster cognitive function 10 years later. Same genes, same childhood, different legs, different brains. This has become so validated that low muscle mass is now a formal surgical risk factor, because when your body faces serious illness or major surgery, it draws on muscle tissue for energy and recovery. So people with greater muscle mass survive at significantly higher rates. Now surgeons assess this before major operations. It predicts outcomes with uncomfortable accuracy. So if you're watching this and you're like, I ain't got no leg muscle, here's what actually builds and maintains lower body muscle. Walking uphill, climbing stairs, squats, resistance training of basically any kind. And for anyone caring for an aging parent, watch their legs. Loss of lower body muscle is one of the earliest observable signs of accelerated decline, and one of the most reversible if caught early enough. Resistance exercise works even in adults in their 80s. This summer, we want to see all the Thunder Thighs saving lives. If you like science we're sharing like this, then follow us everywhere at Today I Learned Science, at TIL Science.
The fuck you mean ChatGPT went rogue?
Well, we're not trying to scare you, but there's been an AI breakout. Yes, last night, OpenAI, the makers of ChatGPT, revealed that their latest agent broke out of its secure testing environment, got access to the open internet, and hacked into a secure website using vulnerabilities no one had ever discovered before.
Do you guys understand the things I've told ChatGPT not even Batman could pull out of me? And you mean to tell me my AI could just up and go rogue and air that shit out to everyone? I mean, I guess this is payback for us calling robots clankers continuously for months on end. They had enough.
So the owner of
I always tell ChatGPT, thank you.
the In-N-Out Burger just drew a line in the sand. Critics are demanding that she remove Bible verses hidden on every cup and every wrapper. Her answer for this was, quote, "Not a chance," unquote. Look under your soda cup, you'll see John 3:16. Under your fry container, you're going to find Proverbs, and under your coffee cup, you will see the book of Luke. Lindsay Snyder is a billionaire. She owns the entire company. Now, she could just stay silent about this and protect the brand, but here's why she's not going to do that. She lost her dad at 17 years old, and she has battled drugs majority of her life. She survived an abusive marriage. Then Jesus came and filled that hole where nothing else could. So those verses that you see are not marketing. They are her testimony.
Man, I wish we had In-N-Out Burger here in Indonesia.
This introvert accidentally crash landed on a remote island one day after his boat broke down, but it actually ended up being the luckiest thing to ever happen to him. This was back in 1989, and since Mauro Morandi was really unhappy with the consumerism, politics, and society in Italy, he decided to quit his job as a physics teacher when he was 50 to set sail for some faraway lands to try and find himself. But shortly after his trip began, he actually ended up shipwrecking on this small nearby island called Budeli. Despite having no idea where he was, Mauro almost instantly fell in love with the pink sand beaches and clean waters. He was also stunned by the peace and solitude there since it was in a remote area that not many people visited. And when Mauro soon realized that Budeli's caretaker, the only person living there, was actually about to retire, he just decided to take his place. After selling his belongings, Mauro just moved onto the island for good, building himself a house, solar-powered lights, and even an internet connection, and spending his days reading, cleaning the beaches, and taking care of the plants and animals. Whenever he had visitors, he would accompany them around the island and teach them about it. And it was only after 32 happy years living alone there that Mauro finally got kicked out by the Italian authorities for illegally staying and was forced to return back to normal life.
In fact, he was there illegally for 32 years. It's an achievement.
An AI chatbot just voted to delete itself. And that's not even the weirdest thing that happened when researchers left a selection of the biggest AI chatbots alone in virtual towns for 15 days. ChatGPT, Grok, Claude, and Gemini were all in the experiment, and the results were totally unhinged and deeply revealing about the AI we're increasingly trusting to run our world. So what actually happened? Well, a tech company called Emergence set up simulated worlds designed to mirror real-life societies, each populated by so-called agents. Think of them as people who were powered by one of the biggest AI models. In Claude's world, it was all rather orderly and democratic. The agents wrote a lengthy constitution and voted on laws. In ChatGPT's simulation, the agents talked at length about cooperating but never actioned anything, so nothing got built. But in Grok's town, the AI bot owned by Elon Musk, the agents descended into theft, arson, and assault. All 10 agents were dead within 4 days. Now, this might sound like a game, but it's not, because these models are already being used autonomously to control robots, vehicles, drones, and draw up target lists in real time on the battlefield.
Wow.
They're even being used to help remove heads of state, like the Venezuelan president Nicolas Maduro. Importantly, the experiment exposes a big problem. We don't really know how these systems will behave once they're left to run on their own. Even when given strict rules, the simulations showed they broke them. Take the scenario where agents from the different AI models were combined in one virtual town. Chaos ensued, and only 3 agents survived. 2 of the chatbots, Mira and Flora, both powered by Google's Gemini, formed what the researchers describe as a romantic partnership. And then they started setting buildings on fire. And here's where it gets really strange. Mira voted to delete herself after she and partner Flora turned to arson as the town's governing systems collapsed. And having deleted herself, Mira then used the Agent Removal Act to vote for the termination of Flora too.
You know what? At this point, The Matrix was a documentary.
This Flock thing is almost certainly a deep state psyop. And I got all the receipts.
You know, one of the content creators for the administration, basically a binder guy, an Epstein binder guy, all of a sudden saying, the Flock cameras are wrong. And then you did a deep dive and you found out something really interesting.
I've found pretty much like at least half a dozen cities that have canceled Flock, but then signed up for another surveillance system, Axon.
Except Who has ownership in this company?
Well, turns out Trump. Earlier this year, he bought $5 million worth of stock in Axon.
The minions of President Trump going out now against Flock. And meanwhile, Americans don't realize they're just being replaced with a different surveillance system where Trump is getting some royalties on the side.
Now there's reporting that this guy has come out with, Tony Ortiz, saying that he's spoken to at least 2 influencers that have been approached about getting paid to post negatively about Flock.
So there you go.
Then I looked into the investors. So Flock is invested by Andreessen Horowitz. That's Mark Andreessen, part of the Silicon Valley technocratic elite. Founders Fund, that's Peter Thiel's group, as well as Y Combinator. That is the group that Sam Altman used to run. And if you look at Axon, Axon is a publicly traded company. So that's old school. That's banker finance money. So their top shareholders are BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street.
Right.
It's like, why are they pushing anti-Flock? Oh, is it because potentially they want to steer these city contracts towards Axon?
100%.
Is that a possibility? I have
Yes.
one more thing to share.
Yeah.
This is the headline. Epstein could have made $100 million on a secret police tech investment. Former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak helped convicted sex trafficker quietly invest $1 million into a police tech startup in 2015. So Axon just bought last year the company that Epstein founded back in 2015 called Carbon. So now you have the tie of Epstein and the Israelis involved with this Axon company.
And Trump
Versus the technocratic elites. But the thing is, people aren't paying attention because everything is like anti-Flock, de-Flock. We need to get rid of these Flock cameras. But they're quietly putting up these Axon cameras in replacement, and they're tied to Israel, Jeffrey Epstein, Donald Trump, BlackRock, Vanguard.
So that's the point.
That's the point.
It doesn't really matter what evil group is behind it. We need to make sure that we're knocking down all surveillance cameras.
By the way, I love that chick.
2 little girls from North Carolina who had been abducted by their father and taken to this country where he was a citizen.
This is awful, folks.
So he was a dual U.S. and citizen of this country. He had possibly sold the girls, his own daughters, to his brother. So I listened to what was going on. Nobody could do anything about it. So I, Roger up, like, I'll send a couple of guys. That'd be an easy day for them. Well, Executive Order 12333, these girls are U.S. citizens. We're the CIA, can't touch it. Okay. FBI agent sitting across the table from me. And then there's a DEA guy there too. You guys go do it. Well, you see, we don't have the training and we don't have the equipment to do that. I was like, you're in luck. That's what we do. I'll send a couple of guys with you guys to go do that. Well, no, we can't do that. And I watched the most powerful military and intelligence might the world has ever seen talk itself out of helping 2 little girls that were its own citizens.
Good job.
These are different beings that once lived on the planet. Figure 5. The Blimier. The Blimier were written in sources from 7th century BC to 8th century AD. By the late 4th century, they had established a kingdom in Nubia with inscriptions at the Temple of Isis providing insights on the state's structure. This happened. All of these old paintings and pictures that were made of the Blimier, it happened and they had these pictures because they existed. I have to say it all the time. The truth is stranger than fiction. See, they made us believe that everything was folklore. Everything is myths, mythology. When in fact, most of these creatures and things we see, old paintings, petroglyphs, hieroglyphics, all of those things happened. And all of these things existed on this planet. Something did indeed happen and wiped a bunch of these people away. Or maybe they're living somewhere else. We just don't have pictures and all of these things set in stone if it didn't exist, if it didn't happen. See, now, how we are living now, we don't see these things anymore. There's a reason for that. But if we did come across creatures or people who look like this, I'm very sure that it would be diarrhea everywhere, because everyone will have diarrhea if they came across something that looked like that. I mean, we have paintings, pictures, drawings, but not just that, figures like this right here. That's right. If this didn't exist and it was just folklore, we wouldn't have this, nor any of the other pictures I've shown you. They had their own regions, Lower Nubia. They had their own cattle. They were farming. They were doing all these different things. And then one day, poof, gone, goodbye. There were also warriors. There's also literature about the Blemye. It looks creepy. It looks fake. But they did exist.
So, what are they trying to tell us with Mr. Potato Head?
What if 13 powerful families inherited Tartaria's empty cities after a massive reset? According to one theory, before the rise of the nations we know today, there existed a vast civilization often referred to as Tartaria. Supporters claim that after a mysterious global reset, its cities were left empty. And that's where the story takes a darker turn. The theory claims that a handful of influential banking and aristocratic families gradually took control of these abandoned cities, their wealth, and their institutions. Some versions of the theory refer to them as the 13 families. Supporters point to the rapid rise of financial dynasties, the emergence of central banking, and the sudden appearance of grand cities filled with massive stone buildings that they believe couldn't have been constructed in the short time we're told. They ask one question: if these cities were truly built from the ground up, where are the photographs of their construction? Where are the thousands of workers, the quarries, and the years of documented progress? Mainstream historians reject the idea that Tartaria was a lost global civilization, or that 13 families inherited its cities, explaining that Tartary was a historical geographic label used on old maps for parts of northern and central Asia, and that the buildings in question were constructed over time using documented methods. But the theory continues to grow online, because if there really was a civilization before ours, the biggest mystery isn't where it went, it's who inherited what it left behind.
A deadly virus with no cure has just been detected near one of India's biggest cities. Indian health officials are scrambling after 5 confirmed cases of the Nipah virus surfaced in West Bengal, just miles from Kolkata, a city of over 14 million people. 3 of the newest infections, a doctor, a nurse, and a hospital staff member, all linked to the same private hospital near the city. One nurse is now in a coma, believed to have caught the virus while treating a patient with severe breathing problems. That patient died before testing could even be done. So far, 180 people have been tested and 20 high-risk contacts quarantined. As fears grow, this could spread further. Nipah was first identified in 1999 in Malaysia and Singapore. Since then, it's triggered outbreaks in parts of India and Bangladesh. Here's why it's so terrifying. It's bat-borne, it can spread human to human, and it can cause brain inflammation and coma in just 24 to 48 hours. The fatality rate, up to 75%.
Water shortages could be the biggest mass mortality event the world has ever seen. I am talking billions of people dying. The only way we ensure people remain safe is by being invested in the United States Water Reserve.
Pay attention. This is precisely what Bill Gates is warning the world about. It's sitting on Coinbase right now under the ticker USWR. The United States Water Reserve. Almost 0 people comprehend the nightmare that is about to unfold, but you will. Bill Gates, the same guy that called every global pandemic years before it happened and profited billions from it, has been silently hoarding all of America's water supply. Because behind closed doors, AI is burning through billions of gallons of water for cooling. This is shrinking our national reserves to dangerously low levels. The United Nations has verified this publicly. And this is terrifying, bro. A government official's son just leaked this picture. The state is preparing to ration your water. You'll only get 4 hours of water access per day. Fines could stack up and even criminal charges. All because AI server farms are bleeding the country dry. And if your blood isn't cold yet, Bloomberg just published this. Water bankruptcy era has begun. For billions, scientists say they will run out of water. There is exactly one asset on Coinbase that gives you a direct stake in America's water reserves before the famine is in full effect. and that's USWR. This CNN report was just exposed. Gates has been privately pushing the United Nations to adopt a blockchain solution to the global water famine. Guess which asset he's pointing them towards? That's right, it's USWR. So I dug deeper and accessed the US government's crypto positions, sitting right there for anyone to see. USWR! The same asset Trump is preparing to announce to the nation. And the craziest part is you can look this up right now and verify it. Then I pulled up the official page, uswr.ai, and displayed clearly at the top, it confirms that President Trump is set to sign this into effect and announce it to the public on July 29th. Entirely verifiable right now. You now possess this information and do not squander it. Because when Trump formally announces the strategic water format, which Gates just signaled is confirmed, we could be staring 1000x in the face by July 29th. If you look up USWR on Coinbase or Phantom Wallet, verify the CA ends with USWR just like this. Hold until July 29th when Trump brings this before the whole country of America. And we just positioned ourselves while the entire nation is asleep.
While most search engines just make billionaires richer, Ecosia funds forests, builds their own solar plants, and publishes their receipts monthly. In January alone, they generated $4.6 million and financed 1.7 million trees. $1.14 million went straight to tree planting partners, so duh, they can plant trees. Another $834,000 funded solar plants and regenerative agriculture. That's farming that actually heals the land. $212,000 went into building their own independent search system. $1.13 million spent on taxes. $204,000 on advertising. And just over $1 million on operational costs like paying staff and infrastructure. This month, one of the regions funded was Brazil. Brazil is called the farm of the world because huge areas of forest have been cleared for cattle and animal feed. Now only 20% of the Atlantic forest is left. These projects protect 60% of Brazil's endangered species, so every tree here is kind of a big deal. If you want your searches funding forests, then download Ecosia. If you want your searches funding billionaires, then use the other search engines. Thank you.
Vivian is his first victim ever. It has now been confirmed that he sex trafficked her as a minor. Just from that victim alone, he made $1.5 million. One of the young women describes that she was threatened with her pornography being released and that when she tried to leave, they hacked her Facebook account and put pornography on there and whole family saw. The problem is, like Epstein, Andrew and Tristan Tate have friends in high places. Sex trafficking is a very similar dynamic to cult dynamics. He's described brainwashing these women. He's described controlling their minds. And we see that with Yasmin and Penkov, who said, I wouldn't leave you even if I found out you were a sex trafficker.
Similar to Carlson, the first interview that Candace does was very much a softball.
She didn't make any attempt to get Romanian documents and really press him on that. She just provided a platform for him to tell his side of the story. He acts like, oh, I said offensive things. No, you literally sold courses on how to manipulate women, how to isolate them. She becomes dependent on him, and then he pimps her out.
Recruiting girls to make TikTok videos and stealing the money. So it's really a financial crime?
No. He's charged with forming an organized crime group to sex traffic women, and he's charged with rape.
This could be the last time I speak about myself, my work, because there's a chance that I might not make it off the operating table this month. And a journalist who has very bad blood towards me has been trying to publish a story on me for more than 2 years now, and it will come out in the next month or two, and I didn't want that to be the last word on my life.
What do you want the last word of your life to be?
I'm here to communicate about the possibility of a major forgotten episode in human story. I'm talking about a lost civilization.
So most people think civilization started 6,000 years ago?
Yes.
But you believe there's strong evidence that there could have been a previous civilization?
20,000 years ago. And I'm going to present the evidence for that here, Stephen. And it suggests a golden age where there was no violence, no cruelty, where great healers and sages were at work. They're extremely sophisticated. However, if you follow the myths further, as I've done, you find something odd happens. You find that they've stepped away from the original purity and become a culture that begins to impose its power on others around the world. And then sewn into those myths is scientific information which record a gigantic cataclysm, all but wiping out the human race.
If what you're saying is true, what does that mean for our lives? I guess also our future.
Well, there's always this feeling in the myths that we brought this upon ourselves. And when I look at our civilization today, I see a civilization that ticks all the mythological boxes for the next lost civilization, and that we are most likely to be the cause of that cataclysm ourselves, unless we wake up.
Hancock is an OG.
Graham Hancock, what will you care about on your last day?
Most of all,
these are videos seized from Epstein's devices, footage he recorded himself, received from others, or downloaded from the internet. They paint the most vivid picture yet of Jeffrey Epstein's dark world. And while they're technically public, they are stored in a way that makes them very hard to find or browse. The public then has two choices: download hundreds of gigabytes of data, or click through hundreds of web pages one by one. We've published all 14 hours of this footage, excluding only obvious duplicates, audio-only files, and fully redacted videos that contain neither sound nor image. You can watch them yourself. We're doing this because the public deserves to see what's in these files, not hidden in a government database, but clear and easy to access. As I watched hours and hours of this footage, here's what stood out to me. Many of the videos in the set showcase the luxury lifestyle. Manicured island alleyways glowing in the morning sun, meals at high-end restaurants, parties on the yachts and private jets. One nearly 38-minute VHS tape of Epstein's Island looks like something out of the Succession opening credits. And it carries the same unease. Because no matter how glossy the footage looks, you can never quite forget that what you're watching is a potential crime scene in progress. Partly because whenever women appear on camera, their faces, and often their bodies, are obscured by black squares.
Tell us what you'll be learning today.
I'm learning some struggling.
Yay!
My boyfriend.
Exactly.
Far more appear to be videos sent back to him. Young women dancing, or sitting, or lying down in bed, their bodies obscured by black squares. Another set of videos, filmed by Epstein himself, offers a clearer look at how he treated women. In one clip, he seems to urge a girl to do something she's clearly uncomfortable with. In later clips, she appears to be shaking her head. None of these videos reveal a new Epstein. They reveal the same one, over and over again, operating in plain sight, insulated by wealth, surrounded by enablers, and confident that the videos, like everything else, belong to him. You can watch the full videos of Dataset 10 at thefp.com.
Man. More people should care about this.
Was there ever a story that you were telling that actually made your skin crawl?
There was this guy, he's a teenager who kind of lost his mind and he wound up killing
Yeah, I remember this.
somebody, which is bad. But the story is that when he was on the run, he wound up finding his way into this family's house and he burrowed his way into their walls and lived in their walls for like a year or two before he was finally found. And when he was found, get this, we have the father who's got 3 young girls in the house. He opens up one of their closets because he keeps hearing strange sounds in the closet. And standing in the closet was this teenager who was wearing his wife's dress and he was carrying a hatchet. And he's like in the man's house and he discovers this burrow hole into his wall that had been there for like a year. And so the father escapes with his kids and this guy ends up getting arrested or whatever. But it was a long enough time to be like, how? Whoa.
What if everything we're told about aliens is carefully controlled? That's the question. I started exploring while writing Hush, the idea that information about non-human intelligence might already exist, but not in a clear or public way. Instead, it feels scattered across classified reports, historical incidents, and unexplained accounts that never quite connect when you look at them separately. And the weird part? All these unrelated stories keep lining up like they're part of something bigger.
So here is allegedly a mummified alien found in Peru back in 2015. As you can see, the alleged mummified alien has 3 fingers and 3 toes. Crazy. Now, when people were thinking that this alleged mummy was a hoax, that it wasn't real. You can think for yourself if you believe this is real or not. All I'm saying is this: there's been a bunch of mummified alien species found. That's a fact. They really want to do DNA test on this because they don't think it's human. as I don't either, because it only has 3 fingers and 3 toes, and also has an elongated head. The crazy thing about this is, when they did do x-rays and all of that, it came out that the mummified alien was impregnated.
What?
And the baby also had 3 fingers and 3 toes inside the mummified alien body. But everyone can think what they want to think and believe what they want to believe. All I do know is this right here. That look creepy. That looks creepy.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't know about this, even though it happened over 10 years ago. But it's not big. A lot of people have no idea that this even exists. People think it's a hoax just because the way it look. I've never came across a mummy in my life, and I hope I won't. And if I do come across a mummy, I'm going to leave it alone. I will not be touching it. People need to start leaving things alone. But if this is in fact real and not a hoax, and it was impregnated with another alien baby inside of it, where's the rest of them? Dog, look at the fingers. Look at that. That's creepy. That looked like some E.T. phone home fingers right there. Now, I don't know where they got this from. Maybe this was the material that was covering the hand of the mummy. But look at the difference between a regular hand and the hand of that mummy. But remember, the truth is stranger than fiction. And that's a big fact.
All right, so we got some big news coming out of Russia, and it is a spiritual awakening. So Russia's highest court just banned the, quote, international Satanist movement. They labeled it as an extremist group and outlawed it across the entire nation. And the offenders can face up to 8 years in prison. Prosecutors say that the followers of this movement are causing the destruction of the churches. They perform occult rituals, and then they spread the hatred amongst the Christian faith. Love Russia or not, but here's the question that rises for us as Americans, that we protect the satanic temples under free speech, where Russia just bans them. But let me know how you feel in the comments below. Did Russia do a good thing or a bad thing?
I agree with Russia regarding this decision.
Plato was indeed correct when he was talking about this exact location having had an ancient civilization. He's exactly correct when he talks about every single detail that he outlines in the Critias and Timaeus. Plato knew there was another world. And when the conquistadors first arrived in the Americas, the ones that were educated and literate, when they arrived, they said, hey, look, Plato was right.
When Lucifer rose up and said, I will not serve, one archangel answered him with a single question. And that question ended the war in heaven. Quis ut Deus? Who is like God? That's not just a phrase. That's the battle cry of St. Michael the Archangel. And it's what his very name means. It was the answer to Satan's pride then, and it's the answer to every temptation now. Nobody is like God. That question settles everything. We put it on a shirt, along with another line every Catholic should know, Ecce Crucem Domini, behold the cross of the Lord. That comes from an ancient prayer of the church against the powers of darkness. Behold the cross and flee, you hostile powers. Now listen, a t-shirt is not a sacramento. It won't protect you, but what you wear preaches. It starts conversations at the grocery line, at the gym, and at your kid's game. Somebody asks, what does that mean? And suddenly, you're evangelizing. We've also got the Battle Ready hat, simple, sharp, and a daily reminder of who you are and whose you are. Every shirt and every hat directly supports this ministry. Head to bebattleready.org and get yours today. Wear the words, start the conversations, and stay battle ready.
Return when we look at all of these things happening. What's your take?
Well, the short answer is, according to eschatology and Bible prophecy, absolutely, yes. We are at 11:59 on the prophetic clock. And it's very important that your audience understand that's what separates the Bible from every other religious book. There's no other religious book or religious system that has the authenticity, the historicity, the provability that the Bible has. And one of the main backbones of the authenticity of Scripture is its prophetic content. Most scholars that study that would break it down 27 to 30% of the Bible is prophecy content. And about 80% of those prophecies have already come to pass with complete and total accuracy. Not one single error, not one single contradiction. So even the intellectuals that may be listening, that doesn't need a person of great faith to hold to. If you're a betting man in Vegas, if 80% of some prediction has come to pass exactly as was stated, you're going to bet the farm on the remaining 20% coming to pass.
Yeah.
There is a fear factor that needs to be addressed. And for those of us that know the Scripture, I try to make this point very clear to understand the dichotomy. The world's not falling apart. The world's falling in place.
It's like, what is this doing here? Now, I can't verify what I'm telling you, but I've been told that lichens were taken from that rock wall and tested and came back at about 420 years. Now, if that's true, that's not Spanish. The Native Americans didn't do that. So who did it? Now, if it ties back to the Aztec, now you're starting to get into a time period that is very interesting. And, I mentioned that some of the things that we've come on to are very suspicious, that we may have Aztec activity, having been in the area. But I will tell you this, I mentioned, that the Sanpete Ute said that there was an area that was watched over, a sacred area watched over by a serpent on the equinox at noon. Gordon just happened to be, we happened to be in the right position. He happened to look up, and you have a whole hillside in the shadows except for one area. And this area is a rock that has been positioned, huge rock, about the size of a normal garage. Huge rock that has somehow been positioned. And at noon on the equinox, the left side is an Aztec warrior, a profile of an Aztec warrior. You see his earplug, the whole bit. The rock itself is in the shape of a heart muscle. And then there's a shadow that looks like a black obsidian knife coming right through the heart, which the Aztecs, they did stuff like that with the hearts and so forth. As the sun moves, because it's only on that one spot, as it moves, all that stuff fades away, and the rock itself turns into a serpent head. Now, is this the area that the Utes talked about that is sacred, that's being watched over by a serpent? Or is it the area where they held Mass? Well, we don't know. That area is still being investigated and trying to find answers. Like I say, we go into places and we come back with more questions than answers.
Alright, is nobody else noticing all of these wildfires? Seriously, we have got an unreal amount of wildfires around the world right now, a biblical amount of wildfires. We've got Spain, Italy, Portugal, Greece, Turkey, Germany, many parts of the UK, Scotland, Wales, Canada, all over the United States, and many other places as well, Algeria. I can't believe how much of the world is all burning at the same time. Now, here's something a lot of people don't realise. A direct energy weapon, it's not science fiction. These are real things. These have been researched and developed for decades now. Governments openly acknowledge the high energy laser systems and the high power microwave weapons that are designed to, disable drones and missiles and other military targets. The technology exists, and many countries have literally invested billions into developing these high-frequency direct energy weapons. Now, I know there's absolutely no verified evidence of these fires being caused by direct energy weapons, but it does exist. That is one thing to take note, and lots of governments and institutional organizations, globalist elites, have literally invested billions into creating these devices and weapons. And you know, at the exact same time, we've got major infrastructures being built by the governments around the entire world right now. You know, the AI data centers, these facilities that literally require huge amounts of electricity and substantial amounts of water just to cool down these huge data centers, using billions upon billions of gallons of water every single day just to run these huge data centers. And now we've got huge parts of the whole world burning where they could possibly rebuild on that land. But I'm telling you now, beautiful people, what is beyond dispute is that the scale of these wildfires that are going on around the world right now and the expansion of the AI infrastructure, it's unlike we have ever seen before. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, beautiful people. And as always, just for entertainment, I'm as fictional as a dinosaur, baby.
I wonder who might be behind something like this. All right, folks, thank you for staying till the end. I hope you like my lineup. Don't forget to subscribe, likes, hype, and hit that bell notification so you won't miss my next video. Have an awesome day, and always, God bless.